Hello everybody, this is AK. I'm back. So in this game, I'm in a tier 5 Russian battleship, right? And it's a PvP mode. And it's a very close game. We're down to having only 3 ships left on each team, right? And while the rest of my teammates pushed ahead to try and capture the enemy base, I stayed behind to defend our base. One sure way of losing a game like this is if no one stays behind to protect the base, right? So the less experienced players usually just go full steam ahead into the enemy base because it seems more exciting than staying back to protect your base. Right? People always like excitement. And that's how games are lost. And that's how money is lost, right, in investment, right? People go for flavor of the month and stuff like that. Right, so I think the last 2 videos I made got some people worried. And that's not necessarily a bad thing in the sense that, like I said, I think that people were becoming complacent and all that. And if people get a bit worried because of the last 2 videos I made, good, that means I've achieved my purpose in the sense that I've made them think, right, about what could go wrong and how they should be preparing for what could go wrong, right? But I don't want people to get so worried that they become very pessimistic about the future, right? That's not what I was trying to do, right? And I always say don't be overly pessimistic, but we want to be pragmatic, right? Prepare for what could go wrong, but don't be so pessimistic that, sell all your stocks, get out of all your investments and stay 100% in cash, that kind of stuff. I mean, if you follow Ray Dalio, he has this idea about paradigm shift and all that, but even then he is not 100% in cash. Even though he recently said that cash is king, right? And I also said that during interview with Fifth Person that, in such an environment where things are very uncertain, cash is king, because if you have a lot of cash, you can take advantage of Mr. Market's depression, right? But it's not Armageddon, okay? It's not as if the world's ending tomorrow or the capitalist system is going to fail tomorrow, stuff like that. No, it's not, right? Things are changing, but things are not coming to an end, as in doomsday, right? So someone asked me, because in one of my last 2 videos, I said that I might sell some of my investments in the banks if their share price should go up higher, specifically, 13% or more higher, right? Why? So I explained that, it's nothing wrong with taking some gains off the table, right? And especially if I think that a recession is coming, no matter what, that will affect the banks, right? Because a cyclical recession comes, it will affect them. The banks are very strong. Our banks are very well capitalized. They are very strong. They have set aside provisions. They can withstand the storm. But it does not mean that they will not be negatively impacted, right? So they're going to see more loans going bad, and people might take a longer time to repay their loans, and debts might have to be restructured, all that kind of stuff. We have to expect that. So as like I said, just like when I say we don't have to be overly pessimistic, we don't want to be overly optimistic either. Be pragmatic. We know that they will still be there, but things will affect them negatively. Taking some gains off the table is never wrong, right? But what about the dividends, right? Because in an earlier video, I said how someone was worried because some YouTuber says that the banks might not go forth with all the dividends that they have promised, etc., etc. And I said I don't think so. That I And, I thought that was just fear mongering, right? So just to recap, like DBS has put forth a 3 years capital return plan, or they call it capital management plan or capital return plan. And this plan totals 8.5 billion Singapore dollars. And like I say, this is money they already have. It's not as if they have to go and find the money from somewhere else. It's already money they already have in hand, right? So this 8.5 billion capital management plan is basically capital return dividends of 15 cents per quarter to be paid out in 2025 and also 2026 and 2027. So this capital return dividends, or some people call it special dividends, is going to last for 3 years and it's about $5 billion in value. Then they also have a $3 billion share buyback program, $3 billion share buyback program, and they have already bought back and cancelled shares representing 9% of the $3 billion allocated for the share buyback program. So they have used up about 10% of that money. They still have 90% left to go, right? So like I've said before in some videos in the past, share buyback program adds value, right? Basically, then there are fewer shares of DBS in the market, which means that the NAV per share will go up, the net asset value per share will go up, all else being equal, because there are fewer shares to share that net asset value, right? And not only that, earnings per share will also go up, everything else being equal, because there are fewer shares floating around to share the earnings, right? So imagine that, and then if DBS earnings should take a hit, that impact will be mitigated because now there are fewer shares floating around, right? So dividend per share might be, the regular dividend per share might take a hit, but it will be mitigated in the face of a recession. See? So don't be too fearful, right? And say, oh, I'm not going to stay invested anymore, I'm going to jump out, right? Then if you talk about OCBC, they intend to return excess capital of $2.5 billion to shareholders over the next 2 years. And this is basically special dividend for this year, right, which is about $1.5 billion, and share buyback of another $1 billion to be completed in the next 2 years, right? And then if you talk about UOB has a $3 billion capital management plan or capital return plan, and there's a special dividend of 50 cents per share over 2 tranches in 2025, and which is about total $0.8 billion in value. And then there is also a share buyback program which is worth $2 billion and be executed over the next 3 years, right? And it's already started buying back the shares, right? So all these things that were announced is already money that the banks have. So there's no worry that it's going to be cancelled or anything like that, right? But of course, then a couple of weeks ago, we have an article in the Business Times that suggests that our banks should review, relook their dividend promises and their payout policy and stuff like that. That maybe the Business Times is just trying to do what the MAS did during the pandemic, but MAS actually had more power lah. Of course, they told the banks, please don't pay out so much, pay out 60% of what you would have paid. Now Business Times, of course, they are not the MAS. Just doing what the MAS did before and say maybe you can consider, if the economy weakens, there's a recession, a global slowdown, you might want to keep more dry powder. I think Business Times should just stick to journalism, and don't try to play financial advisor to the banks. As a shareholder of DBS, OCBC and UOB, I do not appreciate the Business Times doing something like that. Right. So just to set the record straight, I'm not going to sell all my investments in DBS, OCBC and UOB, even if the price goes up very high. I might consider selling some. I'm staying invested. I have full confidence in our banks, right? So if AK can talk to himself, so can you. Bye-bye.